Call the police. He's threatening me. That's what Karen Wilson shrieked, her voice shaking almost convincing while she jabbed a finger at me right there on my own porch. And you want to know my threatening act? I'd simply said no thank you when she demanded I join her HOA and pay $450 a month. That was it. I turned down a bill I didn't owe from a woman who'd shown up uninvited. And 20 minutes later, there's a circus of red and blue lights outside my kids' sobbing neighbors peeking through curtains over what exactly? Because I said no. Stick around because you're not going to believe how this one ends. 8 months before all that drama back in October, my wife Natalie and I were unpacking the last of our boxes on Maple Ridge Drive, feeling like we'd finally made it. Quiet streets, crisp lawns, American flags on porches. It was the picture of a safe, solid dream. I'm Alex Scott, Senior Financial Analyst for the IRS, 15 years deep, specializing in tax compliance and whistleblower work. Don't forget that part. Natalie's an ER doc. Our daughter Emma was 8, Jack 5. We'd worked hard for years to buy that house, scrimped and sacrificed, and moving in felt like a victory lap. The welcome package arrived on day 3. I'll never forget it, too polished, too formal, like something from a law office. Thick envelope, heavy cardstock, a letterhead screaming Maple Ridge Homeowners Association in fancy type. There were slick quarterly statements and a rule book that made me raise my eyebrows. 52 rules, everything from how high the grass could be to what color your mailbox had to be. A schedule of fines, $100 for the first offense, up to $500 if you dared repeat. And there it was, $450 a month, up from $150 last year. And you know what wasn't in there? Any proof our home was inside any HOA's jurisdiction. With my background, you bet I was suspicious. So that night after the kids were asleep, I dug into public records. Not a single trace of an HOA attached to our deed. Nothing in the county files, not a word in the Secretary of State's registry, and no nonprofit status in the IRS database for any HOA in our zip code. I knew right away this was a scam dressed up with enough legalese and intimidation to shake most people into paying. I spent the next evening with Google County websites and my own hunches building a case file before I'd even met the Queen Bee herself. 3 days later, I took a walk across the street, manila folder in hand, straight to Karen Wilson's door. Her house was all fresh paint, new security cameras, a 2023 Mercedes, and landscaping that screamed, "I've got more money than sense." As a financial guy, the whole setup looked fishy. Karen opened the door, wiping her hands on a pricey towel, instantly eyeing my folder like she knew she'd met her match. We talked out there on her perfect porch afternoon sun, sharp across the white trim, her jaw set, her nails manicured, but her fingers fidgeted on her Mercedes key. When I laid out how nothing about her HOA was legal, she just sniffed legal technicalities. Don't matter when community standards are at stake. You ever hear something so smug you want to laugh and throw up at the same time? Mrs. Miller, my sweet old neighbor, peeked through her curtains and ducked out of sight when Karen turned. The binder Karen carried was thick dog-eared, filled with sticky notes. She'd clearly been playing this game for years, but every tell gave her away, the way she nervously touched her jewelry, the calluses from hours on a keyboard. "This isn't a neighborhood association," I told her. "It's organized fraud." Her smile went thin. "Most people don't want trouble with their neighbors," she shot back, cool as ice. Walking home, I realized I wasn't just dealing with a busybody. Karen was pulling in nearly $400,000 a year tax-free, running a shakedown racket. She wasn't about to roll over. That night, I started my own paper trail, documenting everything like I would any other financial crime. I had no idea that refusing to pay a fake fee would spark a federal case, one of the boldest tax evasion busts I'd ever witnessed. But Karen made her first mistake by picking a fight with someone whose job was sniffing out folks exactly like her. The next 6 weeks, Karen proved how sharp she really was. The pressure campaign started slow letters to my office and to Natalie's hospital, all on official-looking letterhead, accusing us of community disruption and refusing neighborhood improvement. Weeks 3 and 4, she fired up a social media war. Suddenly, there's a Maple Ridge Community Standards group. 800 plus members and posts about my family, dry lawn, kids, bikes, left out video clips spun to make us look like the scourge of suburbia. Week 5, Karen sent a flood of bogus complaints to City Hall, noise, zoning, even suspicious activity. Bureaucracy as a weapon. But week 6, that's when she crossed a line you just don't cross. It was December 21st, 8:30 at night. Natalie and I were helping the kids with Christmas decorations, yellow light in the windows, their little voices spilling into the yard. Peaceful, right? Then 2 patrol cars pull up, no sirens, just flashing lights painting the snow red and blue. Doorbell rings. Everything goes silent. I open the door in my slippers, heart pounding. Officer Stevens tells me we've received multiple complaints, domestic disturbance, and possible fraud at this address. My stomach dropped. And there's Karen arms crossed on the sidewalk, backed by 3 neighbors, like it's a witch trial. Emma started to cry. Are we criminals? Daddy Jack hid behind the Christmas tree. I handed over my ID, all the while trying to hold it together for my kids. Then Karen, thinking she's about to finish me, hands over a fat envelope to the police, photos, charts, accusations, all so professional it proved my point. This was a business, not a neighborhood group. The officer's face went blank. He knew something was off. Police figured it out, but the damage was done. Photos of my crying kids spread around the neighborhood, Karen smirking as her papers blew across my lawn. That night I looked at Natalie and said I tried to keep this quiet. Now it's time for official channels. I added the police report to my growing file. The financials and Karen's evidence, over $32,000 in monthly collections, meant someone should be filing taxes, but the IRS database showed nothing, ever. After that night, our lives turned into a game of chess, surveillance, counter-surveillance, neighbors scared to talk. I did my research by the Book County Records Office, State Business Registry, public IRS docs. The numbers were clear: 73 households, $450 a month, almost $400,000 a year. Karen bought her Mercedes the same month fees jumped. When she caught wind of my digging, she hired a PI. Her surveillance got intense, and she started building a narrative that she was the victim, not me. I brought in my lawyer buddy for advice. He called it textbook organized fraud. Karen's attorney, different story. He painted me as a rogue IRS agent bullying private citizens. The pressure on the neighborhood ramped up. 3 more families caved and paid, afraid to end up like me. My kitchen became a war room. Legal pads, stacks of evidence, a map covered in pins. Emma started drawing sad pictures about the mean lady. Natalie kept me sane, and I collected everything: police reports, screenshots, phone recordings, photos of Karen's lavish spending. The breakthrough came when Mr. Paris, a retired accountant, slid a folder across a coffee shop table. She wanted me to help cook the books. I said no. Mrs. Miller let me in her back door and finally told the truth about years of threats. February 20th, 2024. I filed the whistleblower report, 40 pages, certified mail. The real deal. Karen showed up at my work parking lot, sneered, "I know who you are now. This ends badly for you." I warned Natalie things are about to get nuclear. And just like that, the wheels of federal justice started grinding. 3 months later, Karen hit back with a vengeance, hired a pricey law firm, filed a complaint, government abuse of power. She doctored emails and recordings to make me sound like a bully, lined up neighbors to back her up. Local news covered her victimhood, the press ate it up. IRS investigators in dark suits showed up at my job. I got perp walked through the building, badge and laptop, confiscated, personal stuff boxed up like I'd been fired. Natalie cried over the bills, mortgage, lawyers, the works. My kids watched from the window as protesters waved "Stop IRS Harassment" signs outside our house. But here's the twist: to investigate me, the IRS had to dig into Karen. They pulled every file I'd sent, reviewed her evidence, and uncovered massive discrepancies. Her fake victim campaign just gave the government a roadmap. right back to her front door. While Karen did her TV interviews, the IRS built a criminal case, quiet, relentless, and devastating. Forensic accountants found $2.85 million in unreported income, $1.2 million owed in taxes, digital footprints of forged docs, even her tax software showing she'd skipped filings for years. Neighbors started talking safe under federal protection. Karen's lawyer stopped answering her calls after the subpoenas landed. Bank accounts froze, assets got seized, and her private investigator inadvertently turned over evidence that clinched the case. The government assembled an ironclad prosecution: wire fraud, mail fraud, tax evasion, obstruction, the works. The real kicker: Karen's own records so detailed they proved criminal intent 10 times over. On June 15th, just after sunrise, the federal cavalry rolled down Maple Ridge. IRS, FBI, local cops, evidence teams, the whole show. Karen opened her door in a silk bathrobe, coffee mug in hand, and watched it shatter on the steps as the agents read her rights. Neighbors peeked out this time, not with fear but in relief. Mrs. Miller, clutching her walker, watched with tears in her eyes. The same sidewalk where Karen once humiliated my family now bore witness to her downfall, cuffed, silent, and finally powerless. I stayed out of the spotlight. No media interviews, just focused on my family and rebuilding what Karen tried to destroy. The feds recovered millions, set up a fund to refund the 73 families she'd fleeced, and put Karen behind bars for 6 years. Her house and Mercedes got auctioned, her name erased from the HOA, her license gone for good. Maple Ridge transformed. We built a real HOA, transparent, voluntary, with actual services and community events. Emma bragged at school. My daddy helps catch bad guys. Natalie's hospital honored her strength. I got promoted, asked to speak on fraud prevention, and finally felt the weight lift off my shoulders. On the anniversary of Karen's arrest, I walked the block, sun shining through the oaks, kids laughing and bikes whizzing past. The mailbox, once a target for threats, was filled with newsletters and thank you notes. The old Facebook group, now just neighbors sharing recipes and lost dog alerts, left Karen's threats as watermarked reminders of what we'd overcome. So here's my question to you after all this. What would you have done in my shoes? Is it worth risking everything to stand up to someone like Karen? Where do you draw the line between peace and justice? Drop your thoughts below. And hey, if you've ever tangled with a fake authority or stood up for what's right, I want to hear your story, because justice, real justice, only works when ordinary people refuse to back down.